beginning of the program, I asked the production team to give me the daily guide of Tuesday.
Okay.
I think I was wrong. So if the production team would give me the daily guide of Thursday.
Thursday. I think we should have should have it in front of you.
The daily guide of Thursday is very
one of them.
interesting.
I think it's the one close to. Oh, then the Thursday should be in front of you.
So the production team can work on that. That's fine. You know, we are only a few days to the elections. And the temptation, the temptation to talk about so many things is so very strong. But unfortunately for me, the time is so very short that I cannot afford to do that. And I would focus attention on the EC and its preparations. You see, the Electoral Commission decided that one of the most important things it ought to do for this election is to put forth an advert, television advert, which says that elections cannot be rigged in Ghana. I mean, it's so very ridiculous, it's unbelievable. The effect of this advert is to dull the participation, to dull the sense and participation of the political parties and their members in the effort to keep the elections clean. You know, elections can never be rigged. You know, just go there, cast your ballot and go home. That's what the advert says. I hope you've seen that advert.
Yes.
Now, I've watched elections over a very long period of time. I saw the 1969 elections, but I wasn't a key participant. You know. But from 1992, I've keenly participated in elections and the electoral processes. And nobody can convince me that elections in Ghana cannot be rigged. There are so many ways of rigging elections in Ghana. You know, Ben Epson of the Daily Dispatch used to do polls, okay, from the early days and so on. I don't know if he's still doing them now, you know, but he used to do polls. And in fact, they were the only polls that we used to rely on. And for the period that I followed his polls, there was no election in which you didn't find overvoting in some constituencies. Now, if you find overvoting, that is, more people vote than the number of registered voters, then there's rigging. And the Electoral Commission should have these figures which show overvoting in many of the constituencies and polling stations. Indeed, the last election petition before the Supreme Court, you understand? One of the decisions which was made by the Supreme Court was that the incidence of overvoting was not so big as to warrant, you know, invalidating the whole result. So we've had overvoting with us for a very long time. Now, if the Electoral Commission has these figures which show that there has been overvoting, at least in some polling stations, in all the elections, for the Electoral Commission to put out such an advert is to clearly lie to the people of Ghana. Clear lie. Because how did the overvoting occur if there was no rigging? Because overvoting can occur only if there is rigging. That's one. Now, there are many ways of rigging elections, many. And one of the ways of rigging elections is very simple. You know the stronghold of your opponent. So, before, during the elections, you go and create panic. That's a way of rigging the elections. That's voter suppression or vote suppression or whatever it is called. It's a clear way of rigging elections. It's happened in our elections several times. I mean, there have been many cases, and this year it started but died very quickly. Yeah. Every time there's going to be elections, there's a story of a secessionist movement emerging in the Volta region. Soldiers are sent there. Panic is created in the Volta region and so on. That's voter suppression. That's part of rigging elections. You understand? So clearly, there are so many ways of rigging elections. I mean, I can show you many other ways. I mean, on the election day, you know the strongholds of your opponents. You don't need to do a lot of things. Just get two young men to start a fight in a polling station. Say, hey, they are fighting. In an election such as this one, where the temperature is so very high and so on, two small boys fighting in a polling station, who is going to stand up there? Yes, sir. That would again lead to voter suppression and so on. And there are so many other ways. Look, in one election, I think it was in Hohoi, yes. I think this is the 1992 elections, you know. One of my friends was a parliamentary candidate. And when the results was announced, he had lost so badly. Can you believe what his polling agents did? His polling agents just pulled off the T-shirts they were wearing. And there was another party T-shirt underneath, and they joined the jubilants. So this whole engineering of trying to get your party members to be polling agents for the opposing party is part of the rigging machine. And it's happened in our history so many times. And if the Electoral Commission doesn't know this, I'm sorry, then they're not up to their game. You understand? So rigging is possible. Rigging is possible. I mean, in 1996 or thereabout, I contested parliamentary elections. You understand? And there was one polling station in Kokomimble that I didn't know about. I didn't know existed. So one of my supporters came to me and said, look, there's a polling station in this place. You should go there. Do you know there's a parliamentary candidate? I was not allowed to enter that polling station. Yes. I was not allowed to enter that polling station. It was a polling station in Kokomemble. You understand? So these things happen. Rigging is possible if you are not vigilant. And that advert put out by the Electoral Commission is false. Nobody should take them serious. Rigging is possible. The vigilance of the electorate is needed in order to ensure that the people's will is truly established. That's number one. Now, number two has to do with media coverage of the election. The Electoral Commission announced that it was going to restrict media coverage of this election. And this is the first time it has happened in our history. Media coverage has never been restricted. I mean, to the extent that at regional coalition centers, we are going to get, I think, 8 or 15.
Regional is 12, constituency is 8.
8. Yeah. You know, media houses, you know, at the coalition centers. Now, if you take television stations in this country, I mean, I think we have more than 300 television stations in this country or thereabout. I'm not sure of the figure, you understand? Now, as for radio stations, my goodness, multiples of hundreds and so on. So if you say that at every regional coalition center, you can only get 12 television and radio stations represented, how many are you not allowing to cover, you know, the elections? And then, strangely enough, somehow the Electoral Commission came to the conclusion that when you talk about the media, you're only talking about radio and television. Very strange. I mean, the Electoral Commission must have a media relations officer of some sort, and the media relations officer ought to know, you know, the spread of the media. You have newspapers, you have online platforms, you have television stations, you have radio stations, you have a news agency, and so on. So to restrict coverage to television and radio came to me as very, very strange. Now, the other problem with this decision of the Electoral Commission simply is that their constituency and regional officers should choose credible media houses and submit their names for accreditation. How competent are they to choose credible media houses? What is the yardstick? What is the criteria for choosing credible media houses? What's the criteria? You understand? So that also raised very, very important issues and so on. Now, for me, if you don't allow the media to get credible, accurate, correct information and so on, what you do is that the media will pick from anywhere they can find the information, and that can be very detrimental to the exercise. And I was really worried that the Electoral Commission came up with this decision, especially when the Commission's letter said something to the effect that in the wisdom of the Commission, it was taking these measures. And I was wondering what kind of wisdom, would lead to such conclusions and so on. The wisdom of the Commission, my goodness, what wisdom. But that was the wisdom of the Commission, you understand? Now, since then, the issue has been raised by the West Africa Media Foundation. I think it's been raised by the Ghana Journalists Association, GIBA, and others. And I'm hoping that this question of accreditation will be dealt with. The Ghana Journalists Association has suggested that there should be unfettered access to all polling stations, to all constituency coalition centers and regional coalition centers for all media, unfettered access for all media. And I'm in full agreement, with the Ghana Journalists Association. This would help to bring about some measure, of transparency and so on. Now, the other problem which has come up has to do with the membership of the Electoral Commission. Membership of the Electoral Commission. At least I know of one case where a member of the commission is a self-confessed card-bearing member of the New Patriotic Party. Self-confessed. I've seen videos of him on television threatening to do everything possible to make the New Patriotic Party win election. Now, if you place such a member, if you appoint such a person as a member of the commission, the credibility of the elections is destroyed ab initio. From the very beginning, the credibility of the elections is destroyed. Now, I do know that many efforts have been made in order to get this gentleman, Professor something, to resign or be sacked. The president has refused to act. The Council of State wrote and said that it wasn't within its powers, to do anything about it and so on. The National Peace Council, which is putting pieces of paper in front of presidential candidates to sign, does not see this as a threat. You understand? So you have a card-bearing member, not just a card-bearing member, one who has vowed to do everything possible for the NPP to win elections, sitting on the Electoral Commission. Now, that does irreparable damage to the credibility of the Commission. The first time I raised this, somebody said that, as for him, he doesn't care at all. And that if President Mahama comes to power, he can appoint Dr. Tony Edu as a member of the Electoral Commission and he will not complain because he believes that Dr. Tony Edu will do a good job. Master, it's not about the integrity of the individual who is appointed there. It's about the public perception which develops from that appointment. You understand? And I'm really worried about that. Now, there have been a few other issues which are worrisome. And you all saw the publications of a story about a gentleman who is in charge of a very critical technical part of the EC's work, who is the direct son of a leading member of the New Patriotic Party. That also raises substantial questions about what is happening, at the Electoral Commission, and whether indeed the Electoral Commission can be trusted, to do a good job. Of course, there are statements which have been made by some commissioners, which are extremely worrying, and one commissioner, for example, directly, it's quoted, I heard him directly, his own voice, say that the NDC is a threat to the country's democracy. Now, if you have a commissioner, electoral commissioner, who believes that the NDC is a threat to democracy in Ghana, How can such a person be trusted, to handle the affairs of the elections and so on? That again, extremely, worrying for me. And then, Senna, was it 2 days ago or so, there was a report of something, a bag or something which contains, ballot papers, and the seal on one of them had been broken. How was the seal broken? How could the seal have been broken? Again, that raises substantial issues about the elections and how credible the outcome may be. It raises substantial issues, that needs to be raised and spoken about and so on. So we can put that one also aside. I'm not sure if you guys have been following Alorga Akatapori, yes, former member of the PNDC, who has written extensively about the vulnerability of the EC's system, and has written so many things about the vulnerabilities. And one of the vulnerabilities he identified was that, look, he went to register only recently and got an unsolicited text message, and the implications of that on the safety of the data of those who register, and even access to the data and so on. Now, I do know that he has protested to the Electoral Commission. He's called for investigations. He's also written a letter to the Data Protection Agency and so on. Up till now, there's been no response whatsoever. And these are very worrying issues that he's raising. He has raised another issue about the app. Is it the app that is used for checking, voter registration and so on? And he's saying that, look, it can be easily demonstrated. I mean, if you take if you go through the process, and you see, let's say that your voter registration number ends with 332. Mm-hmm. If you use your phone and you enter 332, it gives you the details that you require. Now, if you change it and make it 331, it will give you the details of 331 and so on. Now, this is a vulnerability, clear vulnerability, you understand, which needs to be addressed. That has also not been addressed yet. And I think that somebody, the relevant institutions and so on, need to take Alorga Akatapori very seriously on the issues that he has raised. Unfortunately, from being a member of the PNDC, he's now grown to become a major expert on IT. And I would have even thought that his skills would have been required, by the political parties and by the election agencies and so on, but nobody is using him, and he's just floating around. But on his own, he has identified these vulnerabilities and so on. Now, there's another problem which hasn't been addressed adequately, and it's simply the question of the machines, the BDRs, and how they are disposed of. Remember that some was found in Insawam and so on. So what happened? How were they disposed of? The Electoral Commission says that they were disposed of in an auction. Should they have been disposed of in an auction, given what they can be used for, and so on? Huge question, about that and so on. Now, we are being told that, look, if we ought to be patriotic citizens and so on, you just go to the polling station, you vote, and then you go home. And if you like, you come back in the evening. My friend, I've seen elections in Ghana before. I've seen elections in Ghana before. And that advice, I think, is bad advice. I mean, to the extent that it can lead to all kinds of problems. We know that what happens in the polling stations all the time, There have even been issues about where the political party representatives sit. Sometimes they are placed so far away that they don't see what is happening. Okay? They cannot be part of what is happening. They cannot verify anything, and there can be many problems, associated with that. My brother, let me tell you something quite honestly. I say this honestly. I have absolute confidence in the Inspector General of Police.
Okay.
I'm saying this as honestly as I can. Look, since Dampare became Inspector General of Police, we've conducted a number of elections, by-elections mainly. And in all, the performance of the police has been excellent. As in not. Who would challenge me that his performance was excellent? All the rigging schemes were nipped in the bud. He himself took personal charge of the process and so on. And as in not, is one of the cleanest by-elections we have had in this country. Then there's this one in Ashanti, John Kuma's constituency.
Ejisu, okay.
Ejisu. Who would tell me that the Ejisu by-election was not clean? And so on. So if you look at all the elections which have been conducted at the time that he has been Inspector General of Police, they have been excellent. Security has been excellent. No doubt at all about that. So it provides a basis for believing in his integrity. And because he's leader of an institution, it is possible to extend that belief in his personal integrity also to the institution that he leads. There's a gap. But there'll always be a gap. His personal integrity, I think, is clear. The problem with this election is that it's not like a by-election. The scale is much, much bigger than a by-election. In a by-election, he moves his people to Asen North. He's personally there. It's a small geographical area. It's controllable and so on. Now, it's a nationwide affair. So there can be some doubt as to whether what he did in Asen North can be replicated throughout the country. That's legitimate doubt. You understand? That's legitimate doubt. But be that as it may, to have an Inspector General of Police who is ready to shed partisanship and to do things which will bring about some level of credibility and so on, is most welcome. Okay, it's most welcome. And I'm confident that some things may be useful. I do know that special security arrangements have been made for the media houses. I'm sure you are aware.
I'm aware.
And because they are special security arrangements, I'm hesitant about commenting about them so openly and publicly. I know that the Private Newspapers Publishers Association, the Ghana Journalists Association, and JIBA, and also the Online Publishers Association and so on, have said that they were not consulted and that the arrangements should have been done with them and so on. Maybe it has some merit, it could have some merit, and so on. But as an operator of a media house, or a number of media houses, of 2 media houses and so on, I note that this is the first time such an exercise has been done. Since 1992, the first time that special security arrangements are being made for media houses. Now, if you look at the security arrangements which are being made, without going into the details and so on, it can also become a mechanism for control. Because if they are here with you, they see everything you do and so on. They see who comes in, they see who goes out, they are able to detect your modus operandi and so on. So it can become a mechanism for control. Even as it can become a mechanism for control, it also assures you of a certain level of security. You understand? I mean, people who take bodyguards from the police and so on, they take a big risk. If you are an opposition member of parliament and you want a police bodyguard and so on. Do you know the report he's been sending to his headquarters? Do you know the reports he's filing for NIB? Now they call it NIB and so on. Do you know the reports he's filing? But if you don't accept it, in the event that you are attacked by robbers and hooligans and hoodlums and so on, you will take the responsibility and so on. So it's a balancing act. And I think that, we will take it like that. It's better to have some security or nothing at all. And we will thank the police administration for coming up with such an elaborate, security protection measure, for all the media houses and so on. Now, one of the biggest problems we've had with election results has been how the pink sheet is filled and signed. Who fills the pink sheets, who signs the pink sheets, and what is done with the pink sheet. Okay. In the past, there have been many cases or rumors of party agents accepting cash and signing blank pink sheets and so on. That's a problem. How the parties propose to deal with this, I'm not sure, But it will be interesting if the Electoral Commission itself would insist that as soon as the figures are put on the pink sheet and signed right there at the polling station, they should be pasted on the wall. Right there, right there, it's counted in the presence of the public. 1, 2, everybody sees the count. It should immediately go on the pink sheet. It should immediately receive signatures, and it should immediately be placed on the wall. This is a matter of it's a matter of minutes. It should be on the wall. Now, if it's on the wall, anybody with a smartphone can take a picture.
Any phone with camera.
With camera and so on, we can take pictures, and that becomes credible evidence and makes it impossible for people to go and change pink sheets much later and so on. Now, I used to work in the strong room, and I'm so very disappointed that the operations of the strong room have been dismantled, because it was the best guarantee. Best guarantee. Look, the results are counted at the constituency collation center. They are tallied, they are put on paper and so on. And then they are faxed directly to the strong room. Directly to the strong room, where all the parties and independent candidates and so on have their agents seated. They have 2 agents each. When it's taken from the fax machine, it doesn't go to the electoral commissioner. It comes straight to the party agents. So amongst us, we look at the results, check if it's the mathematics, the arithmetic is proper. You understand? 2 + 2 must be 4. We check those kind of things immediately. And then we place calls to the party agents and representatives in the constituencies for confirmation. Now, when we've done all of these checks, we sign the sheet of results. It's only after all of us have agreed on the results, signed the sheets, that it is finally taken to Afarijan. Afarijan was then the commissioner. So Afarijan doesn't announce any result which has not been signed by all the representatives of the political parties in the strong room. Do you see the guarantee that it gives? So if there's any doubt, if any political party agent in the strong room refuses to sign a result, it means that there has to be investigation immediate. So the consultations and investigation goes on until everybody has signed. This system has been dismantled. My goodness, for what purpose? Who did that? For what reason? This system, excellent system, has been dismantled. I cannot believe it. So you see that in the past, the disputes about election results were minimal. The disputes occurred in the strong room. And once they were resolved in the strong room, finished. There was one instance where I think it was Comrade Japan and others came into the strong room, and the NDC chap suspected that some hanky-panky game was going on. They raised a lot of hell. There was a lot of heat in the strong room. After Jan walks in, within minutes the issues had been resolved and the results had been announced to the satisfaction of all the political parties. Why did this system change? Who changed it and for what purpose? I don't know. So it's extremely worrying. Now, I want to make 2 or 3 very short statements. One is that, look, it is the duty of every Ghanaian, the abiding duty of every Ghanaian, policeman, soldier, Boy Scout, a girls' brigade, whatever, every Ghanaian, all of us, to ensure that the people's will is established in this election. We all have a duty to prevent rigging of this election. All of us, every Ghanaian, whether you're a truck driver or mate, whether you're a bookman or whatever, whether you're a soldier, general or sergeant or corporal, all of us as citizens of Ghana have a responsibility and a duty to ensure that this election is not rigged. The Constitution gives us, the Constitution that we adopted for ourselves gives us the right, actually enjoins us to make sure that our mandate is not played with by anybody. You understand? I've read what happened at Ayawaso West Wogon. I've seen the victims. And I've seen videos of those who caused the problem. And Master, there were not more than 40 people wearing khakis and carrying pistols. If we defeated British colonialism, we can defeat a ragtag army of rascals carrying pistols. Who are they? We defeated British colonialism at the time that British dominated the waves. Do you know what it meant when they said that British dominated the waves and so on? It was one of the strongest armies in the world. We defeated them and got our independence. We fought in the Sagranti War and so on. So we should not be intimidated by these hoodlums. You know, and they are really hoodlums. Hoodlums in khaki uniforms. And then they wear face masks and so on. They want to look frightening. They don't frighten anybody. Anybody thinking about organizing hoodlums, the type of which caused mayhem at Ayawaso West Wogon, should think again. Because the people of Ghana will face them boot for boot and neutralize them. In this election, the will of the people will count. Nobody must make any foolish attempt to rig this election. Because those hoodlums will be defeated. And Master, I do not make this statement lightly at all. We should all aim at organizing peaceful elections. Credible, transparent, peaceful elections. That should be our aim. But even as that is our aim, if there is a group of people, political party or whatnot, who think that they can play hanky-panky games, we should be ready for them. To the extent that the law allows us, we should not allow any hoodlums to steal our mandate. And I believe that in this election, nobody is going to succeed in stealing our mandate. So that's a clear message. Now, the Electoral Commission, I have a piece of advice for the Electoral Commission. The last election results. One of the reasons why there was unease about the results which was announced, one of the reasons why, you know, the matter even ended up in court and so on, was the poor arithmetic skills of the commission, the whole electoral commission of lawyers and experts and so on, could not do simple addition. So they announce one result, and then you see, it says, hey, it's more than 100%. Says, wait. Okay. And then they go back and come with another figure. They say, no, it's not the figure, it's another figure, and so on. We need a competent electoral commission for this election. And we are not asking for knowledge about how to send spacecrafts to the moon. That's not what we are asking for. When we talk about competence, we are asking for an electoral commission which can add 1, 2, and 3, and 4 and get the correct answer once. That's what we are asking for. Or are you asking for something more?
No.
So when we talk about competence, it's the competence that you can find in a class 3 girl. Primary school class 3 girl has that competence. If a primary school class 3 girl has that competence, why can't the Electoral Commission get that competence? After all the bodyguards we give them, after all the 4-wheel drives we give them, after all the comforts we give them and so on, they cannot do simple addition. Why are they there if they cannot do simple addition? So we demand a certain level of competence. Okay? We demand a certain level of competence. Now, I believe very strongly that all these bishops and archbishops and now archangels and so on are also involved in the art of rigging elections. And you know why I believe that? These predictions, what is it meant to do? The predictions, what is it meant to do? It's meant to shape public opinion.
Prophecy.
Prophecies and so on. It's meant to shape public opinion. So, these charlatans, you understand? And most of them are charlatans. Complete charlatans. These charlatans. They go into their holy rooms, is that what they call them and so on? And they go and sniff things and so on, and they get hazy. And then they come out and talk nonsense about God speaking to them and telling them who is going to win the elections and so on. They must stop. They are a major problem for elections in this country. Now, if the prophet says that, and these days, you know that they travel to heaven.
They go.
They go to heaven and come back. There was one of them who the other time was saying that, look, he went to heaven and he saw God and saw Jesus the Christ. And he told Jesus that you, this Jesus, you didn't behave well, that's why you were crucified. He went to heaven to talk to Jesus and told Jesus how he misbehaved and that is why he was crucified. These charlatans, absolute charlatans and so on, they should serve us with their useless prophecies and so on. It is part of the problem of the elections.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, to be very frank, we've run out of time. Dr. David Kwesi, I can see you have a, but quickly, I'm coming. Dr. David Kwesi says, I see you are on the state of preparation by Electoral Commission towards election 2024. What has been absent from all recent conversations is recognition that since 2018, an insertion of Jean Mensah as chairperson, our so-called independent EC became a direct agency, an extension of a new patriotic party and the Jubilee House. Matters are decided by the MPP in ways that the MPP believes and expects will advance its electoral fortunes. EC officials, so-called, merely inform Ghanaians what has been decided. The latest example was the attempt to limit media presence at the collation centers. Briefly.
Senator, to add to what Senior President has reiterated here, concerns are mounting on issues of some sentiments or some statements, I would say statements that were made by a certain military officer who is at Achase here, the Jungle Warfare Training School and all that. And already looking at the precedent that was set in 2020, where 8 innocent citizens of this country were murdered Techima South without anyone being apprehended and brought to justice. And we have today the same government that led us in 2020 trying to use the military against the people and trying to distort the electoral process. We are sending them a caution. That, and I say that, I mean, my grandfather also served in the army. But the discipline of our men and women in uniform today, especially the army, is not what we have or what we have experienced in the past. And you shouldn't be surprised, because if you have the CDS, who is one way or the other related to the president, and here is his in-law, the chief of army staff, who was his former bodyguard, who was promoted in a strange manner, which brought a lot of rifts in the military, then there is a problem going into this election. And we are calling on the leadership of the military to behave. We will not tolerate any recalcitrant acts by the military to subvert the will of the people or to distort the electoral process.
Okay. Thank you, Doc.
My brother, just to make you calm down. The Ghana Armed Forces is not made up of people from outer space. It's made up of Ghanaians.
Exactly.
They are like us.
Exactly.
You understand? So I don't think that the army as an institution will misbehave. Yeah. It will not misbehave in this election. It will do what all of us as reasonable Ghanaians would do. Okay. There may be a few bad elements in the armed forces as there are a few bad elements in the civilian population. There may be a few bad elements in the police as there are a few bad elements in the prison service and so on. What we ought to be doing is to say that the good elements in all the security services should make sure that the reputation of the institutions is not dragged into the mud by the small number of recalcitrant, deviant. Okay, let me leave it at that.
Thank you.
And I'm sure that will happen. I am sure that there are officers and men in the Ghana Armed Forces who would not allow the name of the institution to be misused in rigging of elections. They are like us. We are not better than the people in the army. After all, those you see in army uniforms are civilians like us. The only difference is that they have had a certain training and they wear a certain uniform. They are like us. Okay. So my brother, everybody should be assured, rest assured, that if anybody dreams about using the armed forces to mess up in this election, no problem. I will say
thank you. Army uniforms and military